Welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. It's Thursday, September 5th. I almost said Tuesday, but that's all right. It is Thursday. Bayern is in the swing of things in the Bundesliga as well as that one Pokal match, and Chelsea is in the swing of things in the Premier League and the Conference League. Right now it's the international break.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the international break. Not many games have been played thus far. A couple today. I think today was the first day that games started being played. Lots of Chelsea players, assuming lots of Bayern players as well, involved. Some did actually withdraw from certain teams. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit as we talk about Chelsea. But yeah, it's always kind of a bummer when these breaks come up, especially because the season just started and now we already have this break.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too. Right when teams are trying to find a rhythm, we have a break. But yeah, Germany plays Hungary on Saturday and then the Netherlands after that. I guess the big thing to mention for that is Bayern's Joshua Kimmich was announced the new captain of Germany after Germany lost a lot of senior players. Gundogan, Neuer, Kroos, and Muller all retired from international play.
All phenomenal players, and they deserve their flowers.
Yeah. So why don't we jump right in here and talk about Chelsea's latest match, a 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that match was this last Sunday. Pretty good match to watch overall, I would say. I'm trying to recollect my thoughts. It was a good start for Chelsea when they go up 1-0 and obviously concede a goal to make it 1-1. And overall, there were some positives, some negatives, things I liked seeing from Maresca's side, some things that maybe didn't make sense, some lack of finishing in typical Chelsea fashion. Good to see certain players in action. All in all, it was a pretty typical Premier League match, and one that you'll probably look back on and say it'd be nice if Chelsea were to win this one, especially at home against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole match, but from what I saw, it looked like they did have a lot of good offense in the first half. It looked like they created a lot of chances, and like you said with that first goal looked like a great overall play. It started with a great run from Noni, if I'm remembering correctly, and then to Palmer with the assist to Jackson to put it home. And that was one of those plays where just everybody kind of contributed and did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, that goal you mentioned was phenomenal. I believe it was started by Colwill getting an interception and a great pass out to Noni, who then took it in stride, and his first touch to get around the defender was brilliant. Then you're on the transition, on the run there, and great pass to Palmer, who flicks it, as you said, over to Jackson. So that was awesome. And if we go back to the start of the game, that first, 20-ish minutes, Chelsea kind of was in control and looked pretty solid. The first 10, I think, were fairly boring, but then Chelsea starts to pick it up and had some chances. I thought Wesley Fofana played great, providing some passes out from deep to guys like Noni. And frankly, Noni missed a sitter after one of those passes, so that's those missed chances as I was discussing. But, yeah, the good run of play by Chelsea led to that first goal. And from there, I was really thinking that it was going to be a breeze on the day for Chelsea.
Yeah, like you said, I did notice I think there were a few more missed chances that, obviously in the moment it's tough, but you look back on those and you have to think what it could have been if you would have put, some of those away.
Yeah, and that's what I wrote down in my notes, is that Chelsea could have had at least a couple of goals at that point, only had one, which you're always going to take being up, but they should have put some of those away. I did think in the entire match, the ref, so bad. Such a terrible ref.
Was it Anthony Taylor?
Was not Anthony Taylor. I forget this guy's name. If it was Darren something or I don't know, but just a brutal ref. He was giving yellows to guys like Neto after one foul, and it was questionable. Letting guys on Palace pick up 3 or 4 fouls, not even giving a yellow on that fourth when it's worse than what Neto's was. Just really weird, and we'll even discuss later when he really shows how bad he was. But, yeah, Chelsea could have had a couple goals, some mixed results against the low block that Palace had. The things Maresca was trying I thought were interesting. Gusto was inverting on that right side, and then Fofana would almost be that right back role wide on that right side, and then Caicedo was kind of dropping almost into like a right center back, getting the ball deep. That was interesting and something you saw all day. Later in the second half, you'd see Enzo actually come deep into that role once they made a few subs. It was interesting, and I've seen some tactics around it, why they were doing it based on the way Palace was set up. I like that at least Enzo's trying different things, and he's not this stubborn guy everybody said he was, where he only sticks to his certain set of strategies. So that's at least interesting at this point.
Yeah, I don't know really anything about Palace, honestly, without Olise and what you would want to do tactically against them. But, yeah, the thing I was going to say, you were talking about Gusto, and I feel like so far this season, he's looked kind of lost, or just like he's unsure of where he's supposed to be positionally. Maybe he is having to do too much in that inverted role. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm kind of wondering why Cucurella doesn't invert or something, with those midfielders in that triangle. Like, why don't they kind of switch around what they're doing?
Yeah, Gusto has not had a strong start to the year. Every game he's had a cross where usually he'd make a perfect pass and just hasn't had that final touch on the cross. I think it's a mix of what you said with learning the system. He's more of a true overlapping fullback, I think, in my mind. I agree with your take on maybe try Cucurella on the left side. Gusto did pick up a thigh injury, so he's probably going to be out for a little bit of time at least. Sounds like Reece James won't even be back for the Bournemouth match. Really starting to get concerned about him again. So do you potentially invert that left side instead with those guys out? I lean toward yes as the answer to that. We'll see what happens ultimately with Maresca and what he decides to do there.
Yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it too, I wonder what is even going to happen with the left wing, because you've had a bunch of different players start there for Chelsea. I know Neto this last match, but I've seen Mudryk there, and I feel like Jackson's always been a striker. I don't think he's played the left wing. But anyways, I wonder what that has to do with for the inversion of the left back, and then how well Noni's playing, like what kind of service he can be getting if Gusto, plays higher up the pitch. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but, it still seems like things are kind of unstable with the lineup, or at least what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're definitely trying a lot of different things. Now you bring in another guy, Jadon Sancho. Where is he going to play? You got Felix, of course. Some of these guys play centrally. Some can play on the wing. A lot of them can play false nine. Can Nkunku actually be a striker? Who knows? Jackson has played a little bit of left wing. Now you have so many wingers, you're probably not going to see that. I don't know. There's so many different lineups you can roll out there, and we'll see a lot of that in these Conference League games, which will be great. But, yeah, lots of options. Some of these options came in this match against Palace. I didn't think the subs were super impactful. As we begin talking about the second half here, I thought Palmer was awesome most of the day. He looks so calm on the ball, and he's just a great presence for the team. It's almost like a lot of these guys need to step up to match that from him. Unfortunately, Palmer's good play didn't get the ref to do what he should have done, and this was about the 50th minute. Will Hughes, I believe his name is, Crystal Palace midfielder. Palmer was dusting him the entire match. Sitting on a yellow card, pulls Palmer basically right in front of the box. Kind of like a goal-scoring opportunity, not quite, but should have been a second yellow. I don't know how this wasn't a second yellow. I don't know if you caught it, but really easily should have been a second yellow. Doesn't give him it. Hughes comes off a few minutes later because he was going to get a second yellow if they kept him in. But this was my moment of the match, because if Palace goes down to 10, Chelsea win this match easily. Probably put up a few more goals, win this thing 4-0, get out of there with the 3 points. The fact that the ref didn't intervene in this moment was frustrating. And yes, Chelsea could have reacted better. But 3 minutes later, Eze equalizes with a brilliant goal. And that's why it's the moment of the match for me, because Chelsea never recovered.
Yeah, my moment of the match would have been Eze's goal, which seems kind of cliche or standard, that equalizer, but it was honestly a brilliant goal. And yeah, like you said, sometimes these matches just come down to those huge momentum swinging moments where a call is made or isn't made. And I always say that the only thing I look for in a ref is for them to be consistent throughout the match, whether that be calling a lot of fouls or not calling a lot of fouls. Just do that consistently throughout the match, and I'll be relatively happy. Granted, I tend to lean more towards I like play to go on and things like that versus calls being made every 2 seconds. But nevertheless, yeah, you got to have that like level of consistency as a ref. Otherwise, there's no telling what would have happened or what wouldn't have happened as the match progresses.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm never a huge proponent, similar to you, of sending players off. But when you have a lack of consistency as the ref and you're calling some of these yellows and fouls on Chelsea, you're not doing the same for Palace. And then this guy, Hughes, that is fouling all over the place because he's clearly getting beat in the midfield time after time, you got to give him that second yellow. It's very frustrating. I do understand, and look, I'll be the first to admit, Chelsea needed to step up and play better after that. Even after Eze scores the goal, Chelsea are again getting dusted in the midfield. I don't know if it's because Hughes came off, but Enzo, Caicedo, these guys haven't been up to par with the way they've allowed opponents to frankly waltz into their midfield, through the midfield. And Palace looked stronger in the second half. I saw some people saying Chelsea were lucky to get away with the draw. I wouldn't take it that far, especially with how well they played in the first half. But, yeah, it was frustrating in the second half because they never quite matched what they did in the first half. The subs didn't do enough. I actually thought Mudryk looked pretty good, created a great chance for Jackson that could have put away. I'm not going to blame him for it. But, yeah, and honestly not much to really dissect in the second half because Chelsea didn't score, didn't give up another goal, and either team probably could have snatched it at the final hour.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about the second half, from what I saw, which was a bit limited, was it looked like Chelsea was playing a little bit too individually. They weren't, stringing things together. Like I mentioned, that first run for the first goal with, I don't know if you said it was Fofana or whoever took the steal.
Levi,
yeah, and then to Noni, to Palmer, to Jackson for the goal. That was a great team run, and it seemed like in the end, in that second half, Chelsea were just trying to make brilliant individual plays, which can work sometimes and can once in a while win you a match, especially when you have a guy like Palmer. But ultimately, you're going to have to link up better and create great runs and great pressure and things like that as a unit that will kind of move you closer to your goal as a whole.
Agreed, and I'm not too worried about it at this point. Early in the season, you're still bringing a couple guys in. They're going to get time together to build that chemistry. One of ththose individual runs, João Felix, brilliant run, dicing through the midfield of Palace. Oh, you're thinking, man, this is awesome. This is why we signed this guy. And then just kind of a weak shot at the end. Couldn't quite tell if there was somebody he could have caught with a pass, but I'm sure there must have been. If you're dicing through all these defenders, there had to be somebody open on the left or right. So I think with time that will come. There's people who are probably anti-Felix and think that's all he's going to do is be more selfish and create plays like that. I don't think that'll be the case. I think he's motivated and wants to show that he has what it takes to succeed in this world. I mean, that's what every boy hopes, that they can show the world
what they're made of.
What they're made of, exactly. But, yeah, I think with time these guys will mesh, and it's going to be beautiful, and they're going to be playing such beautiful football and showing the world why they're a great team.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't judge Felix one way or the other at this point. He's so new to the team. It's a new coach, a new system, young players, all that stuff. But yeah, we're gonna hope that Chelsea starts to gel and shows the world what they're made of.
And speaking of gelling, I will call out my Batman of the match. I don't know if you wrote one down, but mine was Cole Palmer. I just think he kind of dominated a lot of the game. A lot of times in the second half, he was really deep, actually, which is interesting. But no matter where he plays, he looks so smooth, calm, collected. It's just insane what he does on the pitch. And he had a Batman performance for me, and his sidekick on the day was Nico for scoring that goal. I thought he had a strong day as well.
Yeah, that's what I would have gone with for Batman and Robin as well. Granted, with my limited exposure to the match, take it all with a grain of salt. And then I would give defender to Fofana, and honestly, I couldn't give you an underrated player just because otherwise I'd just be talking out of my ass.
Yeah, I agree with you on the defender. I thought Wes Fofana was the best defender on the day. Colwill, again, looked super strong. So that pairing is looking to be great to start the season. I like going with my energetic guy.
Oh, yeah, fireball, firecracker.
Yeah, for me, that was Nico. He's my Robin, but he's also my fireball because, boy, does he love to get in the face of the opponents.
Nice. I do love that. I love a fiery player.
Yeah, he does that all the time, and it's to his detriment at times. He picks up a lot of yellows. Got a yellow here for well after the whistle, kicking the ball in the goal in the second half. But I will also say, on a more somber note, if you will, didn't love what I saw from Noni Madueke. I know he had that great run that led to the goal, but one moment like that isn't enough for me. You got to show that you're consistent throughout the day. He still needs to work on his consistency. I'm not worried about him, but just needs to put more full games together if you're going to be a great player at the highest level.
Definitely. I don't have anything else to say about that match. Like we said, the second half I thought was pretty lackluster in terms of performance by Chelsea and chances created, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, overall, just a match that you can build on and hope to take the positives from leading into their next match after this break against Bournemouth Saturday the 14th. Then you're going to have a Carabao Cup draw on the 17th. Chelsea did get their schedule for the Conference League, whatever they're calling it, this round, this new thing they're doing with these European UEFA tournaments. So those are all out there as well if you want to take a look. They don't start that till, I want to say, October 3rd or something, but that's out there. So, we'll just see what Chelsea brings with their lineup, tactics, and play in the next match.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this international break to be over. It feels, it's only a week without club football, but as of right now, I'm kind of chomping at the bits for Bayern to be back in action.
You don't want to just go watch some U.S. men's play?
Once we're officially helmed by Pochettino, I think I will.
Yeah, I didn't even look who they play when they play. I couldn't care at all right now.
Yeah, once we get saddled up for the World Cup in America this time, 2026, I will be raring to go.
That's fair.
All right, well, should we transition over to Bayern Munich?
We shall.
Okay, well, 30 minutes after Chelsea played, Bayern Munich played on Sunday, the 1st of September, and they took down Freiburg 2-0 in what was their Bundesliga home opener. It was, I would say, a little bit of a mixed bag. First and foremost, they got the win 2-0, which was awesome, and you love to see that because Freiburg is a good team. I think that they'll probably finish top 10 in the Bundesliga this season. They beat Stuttgart 3-1 in match week 1, which was a nice win for them. Stuttgart, as you remember, finished second last year in the Bundesliga. But I just say it's a mixed bag because the lineup formation was a little bit odd. I believe it was technically a 4-1-4-1, and it was very fluid. It was very unstructured, which I kind of thought was a little bit interesting. I would like to see a little bit more structure from Bayern. I think in these kind of matches, if you're Kompany, you just got to go with what works and just honestly, you have a better team than pretty much everybody in the Bundesliga on paper. So you just got to go with what works and just take it to teams, just take it to their throats. And this isn't the kind of match to really tinker with things like that. But overall, it was a good match for Bayern. It was a great win, I thought.
Yeah, I felt like the lineup was pretty attack-focused. That's the move I would go with if I'm Bayern all season long. I'm not saying this particular lineup, but just in general, their style of play, and we've kind of talked about it, but I just think with their talent, they have the ability to kind of step on the throat of their team whenever they want. And I think in this match, they showed that certainly at times. I thought they dominated the entire first half just in terms of controlling the ball. Freiburg, their XG had to be 0 in the first half. I mean, I swear they had no chances, and Bayern was just all over the place dominating.
Yeah, I don't know if Neuer had to even touch the ball in the first half. I guess I should say in the box because maybe we'll get to it, but Neuer is playing ridiculously high up the pitch, which is awesome. I love to see that. But yeah, you'll see him sometimes on the other team's half playing the ball with his feet, which is pretty sweet. That sweeper keeper kind of style, fearless play that Neuer is known for is even more accelerated in this attack-focused system. But I agree. So the first 2 Bundesliga matches for Bayern have had excellent first halves in terms of creating chances, controlling the ball, dominating possession. And then we start to see things kind of slip up in the second half. But, yeah, like you said, pretty much complete domination in terms of control of the ball in the first half from Bayern. And then in the 38th minute, there was a penalty awarded for a handball on Freiburg, and Kane steps up to the box. I almost said steps up to the plate just because I like saying that, but steps up and, like he always does, buries the pen. Now, we can talk about this handball call a little bit because I don't like the call of a handball here. It was one of those situations where the defender headed it and it kind of like rolled off his arm, down his arm, which was almost an identical play to what happened last week in Wolfsburg, and that wasn't called a handball. From what I looked up, according to the rules, it is a handball. It's kind of a newer rule. I don't necessarily like it, but if that's the rule, I guess you got to call it. And the official even looked a little bit like disappointed when he was making the call, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, my 2 takeaways on this handball. Number 1, I don't like the rule, and it sucks that Premier League seemingly has a different rule now. They changed their rules on handballs this season basically to try to eliminate the call of more handballs unless it's so obvious. So in the Premier League, that certainly would not have been called, which it's just frustrating that there's not crossover within leagues. But my second takeaway is that although I don't agree with the call, whether right or wrong, Bayern did deserve a goal at this moment in time. They dominated the first half, and I'm the type of person that just kind of goes with the vibes of if a team's dominating, they are deserving of a goal. And, you'll see managers sometimes say, we deserved more when they didn't get the result or something. In this case, Bayern did deserve a goal, and they got a goal.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bayern was creating a ton of chances. There was a period of time, maybe from the 20th to the 40th minute or so, where Bayern honestly could have had 2 or 3 goals just based off of how aggressive they were. And honestly, credit to Freiburg. Their defense was very good. Their offense was pretty lackluster throughout the whole entire match, but I did like what I saw from their defense. Their offense was aggressive and high. They pressed very high, but they just didn't create a lot of chances. But yeah, really the whole offense, Musiala, Gnabry, Kane, they were firing on all cylinders at that point in the match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Freiburg knew where their goal was for most of that first half, and even the start of the second half. I mean, they couldn't get close to sniffing a goal, and it was insane. I think Neuer might have taken a little nap at one point. Just what I was seeing out there was crazy. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of boring because I like seeing more action on both. On the other, it's nice to see Bayern dominate and watch a team put on a display like that, but they weren't necessarily scoring much either. So it was kind of interesting in that sense because Freiburg could have made it very interesting with how little scoring it ended up being, but they obviously couldn't do that. So
yeah, and I gotta say too, I want to give credit to Bayern's defense because although they weren't as involved, especially in that first half, in the second half they had to do a little bit more work. But Bayern's defense looked very good in this one overall. I thought there weren't the typical center back mistakes or crazy, passes near the box. Overall, the back line, which I guess technically consisted of Kimmich in this match, and then Upamecano, Kim, and Guerrero, all of them I thought looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I thought Kim had a great day. Upa was fine. I think he was maybe my worst player on the day just because I happened to pick out a couple passes that he didn't complete. So maybe I'm picking on him a bit. And I've said this is why I like him, actually. I like that he goes for more risky passes. Unfortunately for him on this day, he just didn't complete as many of those. But still, I would rate him as more of a potential guy and a guy that I like for those reasons trying those passes.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, that's why I think Eric Dyer would work really well with Upa back there. Maybe we'll get to a point where that type of thing is tried. I want to see more rotation with the center backs. Just overall, I think Upa and Kim running it out every single match, similar to last year, will get tired and just make even more mistakes. But I think that the dichotomy of the two different games between Upa being aggressive and kind of playing the ball and taking it out there, I think having somebody like Dyer behind him will create that assurance where if he makes a mistake, Dyer will be there likely to save the day or at least cause trouble, whereas Kim is usually running around somewhere else or up high as Upa or even higher.
Yeah, and talking center backs, did I see Goretzka come on super late? And it looked like he came on for a center back. Did he actually play center back there?
Yeah, he came on, I think, in the 90th minute. And yeah, Goretzka is able to be used as a backup center back, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I know we saw him in that match. Was it that Grasshopper one or one of those preseason matches that didn't matter where he played center back?
Yeah, I think that was the Grasshopper match. But anyways, into the second half of this match versus Freiburg. In the 59th minute, you saw 2 subs for Bayern Munich. Kingsley Coman, who came in for Tell, and I thought he did all right. But more importantly, Thomas Muller, who was similar to the first match of the season in the Pokal, was the difference maker in this match and came on for his 710th appearance for Bayern Munich, which is the record now, the standalone record for that. So this match turned into a match that kind of was all about Muller, and rightfully so.
Yeah, real quick on that sub, because it was a great sub. A lot of it was because Elise, I just don't think he's up to 90-minute standard yet, which is fine at this point, but that's why I think it was a good sub. You could just tell he was kind of losing it a bit in the second half. And so to bring Muller on, who is about as super sub as a sub can get, I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Elise had his strongest match. I think he's still trying to figure out things at Bayern, which is fine. He's so new. And honestly, Bayern has so many good wingers. After the international break, Sané will be healthy. There's just going to have to be rotation at that position. But back to the moment at hand, like you mentioned, super sub Thomas Muller comes on and in the 78th minute scores an incredible goal, which essentially seals the match. The crowd goes wild. Muller's pumping his fists out there. That was just a great assist from Gnabry and an incredible first touch. If you haven't seen this goal from Muller, go out and watch it because the first touch was beautiful, and it was a rocket of a shot that kind of bounced up and deflected off the goalie and ends up in the top of the net. And it's just typical Muller, creating this chaos and sealing the game and coming in and just, slamming the door shut on Freiburg.
Great move doing that shot off the ground. I love when guys do that. And you just love to see Muller in this moment, which was my moment of the match, by the way, getting this great goal. He's awesome, great player. I'll keep calling him a super sub because that's how I think he should be used, and he's been used perfectly that way. And it's awesome. He's old, yet plays young at times and is a joy to watch.
Yeah, he is one of the most fun players to watch in the world. And yeah, that would be my moment of the match as well. And just to not piggyback off you, how about after the match when Muller jumps into the crowd and celebrates with the Bayern Ultras and is doing chants and everything? That'll be my moment of the post-match, I guess. But yeah, one more thing happened in this match that we should hit on if you're looking for a full rundown. In the 96th minute or some crazy amount of extra time, Freiburg got a penalty and took one of the worst penalties you'll see in your life. So if you believe that ball doesn't lie, maybe it doesn't. But similar to Sterling's penalty last year, the ball might still be in orbit.
That's actually funny because I stopped watching this match, I don't know, before the 90th minute. So I had no knowledge that even occurred. I will have to find that video because if it's anything like the Sterling video, that's absurd on all levels. When you first said Sterling, I thought you were going to say that same game against Leicester where he bombs that free kick.
Yep.
The penalty he took in that game was a dribbler right at the keeper down the middle. So
Wow.
He actually had 2 terrible misses that game. So that's funny. But
Wow. Yeah, maybe it was a makeup call or something to get to write that handball, but it was a pretty weak call. Yeah, and I guess also I should say João Palhinha and Konrad Laimer came on maybe around the 70th minute and provided some shakeups in that midfield as the formation kind of was morphing and as the formation was changing a little bit. So overall, I've said it a million times, I think it's just a good win for Kompany, especially at this point in his career as the Bayern Munich head coach. I'm still curious to see what happens going forward. I'm curious to see how he manages all these players coming back from injury, and I'm curious to see what his formations look like. But overall, a very positive start from him. If we want to give out some match awards here, my man of the match, pretty clear, Thomas Muller.
I have listed Gnabry as my man of the match just because he played more of the game, and I thought he was very strong on the wing. I had Muller as my Robin just because he scored that great goal and obviously put in a great performance. But I think Serge maybe will go unnoticed, but had to shout him out.
Yeah, well, I noticed him because I gave him my Robin or my second fiddle of the match there. I want to give him some more flowers and more of a shout out too, because honestly, this whole season so far, including the preseason, Serge has looked completely rejuvenated, and I hope that there's a little bit more rotation at the wing position that allows him to stay fresh and healthy. But it's clear that all the talk of Bayern wanting to sell him clearly got to him, and I don't know. I wasn't one of those people who was really pushing him out the door. I like what he brings to the table, but it's good to see him completely like with a fire under his ass, just out there killing it.
Yeah, I love seeing a guy with a mustache like that perform well. So A+ effort from him.
I might give him my most stylish Bayern Munich player award as well. If you ever want to get some inspo for your fashion, which maybe I'm not the person to be talking about, but check out Serge Gnabry. He changed his hair a lot too, and his facial hair. So just an inspiration on and off the pitch.
And that's all we're looking for in this world.
Actually, I want to say he just opened up a foundation that works on giving healthcare access to people around the world. Man, I hope I'm not just making that up, but I want to say that happened this year too. So seriously, a Robin, a Batman, whatever you want to call him, on and off.
Tough to say what's more important, his fashion or healthcare for those that need it, but nonetheless, great guy.
I mentioned the fashion first, so I guess that shows where my head's at. But anyways, I also listed Harry Kane as my underrated player of the match, which maybe you think, how the hell is he underrated? He scored that first goal. But I really loved what I saw from him this match, kind of playing up and down the pitch, staying, I guess this sounds contradictory, but staying mostly in the box when I wanted him to be in the box, but then also doing the thing that he likes to do, which is play all around and make assists and start plays and contribute elsewhere. But the main thing for me, like we've been saying with him this year, is I want to see him in the box getting serviced when it's time to get serviced, and he did that this match. So if he can play like that the entire year, that'd be great.
Oh, let's talk about him getting serviced. I'm just thinking he's a car and he needs an oil change, but
yeah, that's what I want from Kane this year, like I said, and let's just keep doing that, buddy, and things are going to be all right. My defender of the match was Kim Min-jae. I thought he maybe didn't rectify all of his sins from the previous matches, but he looked a lot more comfortable and solid and didn't make those crazy passes when he didn't need to. So I'm giving that award to Mr. Kim, who also played 90 minutes for South Korea today.
Yeah, he was my best defender. If he needs to rectify those sins, you got to go to confession for that, unfortunately. But yeah, I thought he was strong, as I mentioned earlier, and great to see after maybe some mistakes, as you mentioned in the past few.
Yeah, so at the moment, Bayern is training with a smaller squad because, like we said, the international break is going on. And the reason why I wanted to say that is I saw some great pictures of Vincent Kompany training with the squad, like truly training with the squad, getting in there. I saw a picture of him kind of boxing guys out, making a header, and just really, doing these drills and passes. And that's what I want to see from a coach. That's one thing that I always like about seeing videos of Xabi Alonso training with Leverkusen, who did lose, we should mention. Their unbeaten Bundesliga run is over. They lost 2-3 to Leipzig, who will also be a title contender in my mind this year. But before I go on another tangent, Bayern's next match is against Holstein Kiel on Saturday, September 14th, and then they play their first Champions League match with this new format the following Tuesday, the 17th.
Yeah, I just noticed today, actually, when I was kind of going over my personal calendar where I now include matches of both these teams just so I'm aware, and saw that Champions League's right around the corner, which is great. To add on to your point about Kompany getting involved in training, no surprise after what I said last week, saying he needs to be out there on the pitch with the boys, and I will add, Enzo Maresca's doing the same in training for Chelsea, so maybe they can do a little one-on-one matchup.
I would unironically like to see Kompany playing center back, I'm not going to lie.
That'd be awesome, yeah. He's not far removed from being in his prime, so I'm sure he could get out there for X amount of minutes and be decent.
No, I think he is like a few years older than like Neuer and Muller. He's really close.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that surprising, especially the wave now of hiring guys that are basically right off the pitch. It seems like that's a super popular thing in sports all across the world, I might add. I mean, in America, a lot of sports are doing that, hiring these young guys. So, and actually, even some younger, like you got Brighton, who hired a 31-year-old, I want to say, which is even crazier. But it's great to see these young, fresh ideas coming into play.
Hey, we're not that far off if we keep things going on this show and get so much more notoriety. Maybe we'll be getting calls next.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly get about 10 to 15 calls per day from teams, some in Ireland, some in Botswana, Antarctica even, but I got a pretty good life right now, so.
Well, I can't think of, honestly, anything else. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Transfer-wise, international break-wise, we kind of had our transfer window roundup episode, so if you want a more detailed look at what our teams did over the summer transfer window, why don't you go listen to that one. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything you need to get off your chest.
Nothing off the top of my head, didn't have anything written down. I will just shout out, I think they're pronouncing it Esteval Willian, potentially the young Brazilian that Chelsea signed for next year, but he got his first call-up to the senior Brazil team, so that's awesome to see. Guy's 17 years old and is making a huge name for himself, so big stuff.
Awesome. Well, as a viewer/listener of this program, you should keep your eyes and ears peeled for next week, because we will be releasing a interview/episode/Premier League rundown preview, whatever alphabet soup jambalaya you want to throw together, with Mr. EPL Clean Sheet. So he's pretty plugged into the Premier League and all the goings on, over there. And it's going to be one that you will not want to miss, so really stay tuned.
Yeah, I second that, and we'll tweet out a link to his site, Clean Sheet. So going to be awesome stuff doing that next week.
Yeah, and we hope to do a little bit more of that coming forward. As always, you can listen to the podcast show on the podcasting apps, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Video content will be up on YouTube, short reactions, long reactions, TikTok for an amalgamation of anything you want to see. Hell, you might even see Jim and I out on the pitch kicking the ball around on TikTok. So check that out as well if that's kind of your cup of tea.
Yeah, especially if you want to see shots well to the wide part of the net that missed by quite a bit. Check out that TikTok for sure.
All right, on that blazingly positive note, I will send us off with a Mia San Mia.
Up the Chelsea.